William Howard Taft was born on September 17, 1857, in Cincinnati, Ohio. Taft was a Yale graduate and was the son of distinguished Judge Alphonso Taft. After studying at Yale, he returned to Cincinnati in order to study and practice law. Taft became a prominent Republican lawyer and had dreams of being on the Supreme Court. Taft would serve as both Secretary of War and Attorney General under President Ulysses S. Grant. Taft would also go on to become the ambassador of Austria, Hungary, and Russia under President Chester A. Arthur. However, while Taft was setting his sights on the Supreme Court, his wife had dreams of becoming the First Lady. His wife, Helen Herron Taft, would go on to set up many political advancements for him, beginning with Taft filling in a seat for a judge on the Ohio Superior Court. The following year, Taft would be elected to a 5-year term in the very same court. In 1890, Taft was appointed as the United States Solicitor General, and just 2 years later would serve as a judge on the U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. This gave him jurisdiction over Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Michigan. President William McKinley would give Taft the task of setting up a civil government in the Philippines. After some hesitation, Taft reluctantly accepted the position of chairman on the Second Philippine Commission, realizing it would give him opportunities to advance through the national government. Taft proved to be significantly more sympathetic with the Filipino people as he tended to stray away from the violent tendencies towards them in the past. However, Taft believed in order for the Filipino people to be ready to self-rule, they would need many more years of U.S. guidance and instruction. On September 14, 1901, President McKinley was assassinated. This put his vice president, Theodore Roosevelt, into office. Roosevelt would go on to offer Taft a seat on the Supreme Court twice, only to have Taft turn it down so he could spend more time in the Philippines. In 1904, Taft would return to the U.S. and agree to be President Roosevelt's Secretary of War, as long as he could continue to look over the Philippines. During Taft's 4 years as Secretary of War, he would accomplish many things, such as overseeing the construction of the Panama Canal and even becoming provisional governor in Cuba. After Roosevelt refused to run for a third time, he began promoting Taft as his successor in the next election. Despite Taft's dislike of campaigning, he agreed to run in the 1908 election with much urging from his wife. Taft defeated William Jennings Bryan by pledging to continue support of the Rooseveltian program for progressive reforms. At the start of Taft's presidency, he would be very active in antitrust suits against large industrial coalitions. However, he would back away from this policy and align himself more with the conservative Republicans. In 1909, the Payne-Aldrich Act was passed. Many of the progressive Republicans expected Taft to veto this bill, but Taft would go on to sign the bill, saying it was the best tariff the Republican Party had ever passed. This was the start of Taft's alienation of Roosevelt. Roosevelt would be completely alienated when Taft upheld Secretary of the Interior Richard Ballinger and dismissed Ballinger's biggest critic, Gifford Pinchot. Pinchot was a personal friend of Roosevelt, and by 1912, Roosevelt had been so far alienated by Taft that he would break away from the entire Republican Party to make the Progressive Party, better known as the Bull Moose Party. After Taft left the White House, he returned to Yale to teach law. In 1921, Taft's lifelong dream would be realized when President Warren Harding appointed Taft as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. While on the Supreme Court, he would help pass the Judges Act of 1925, which gave the Supreme Court greater discretion when choosing cases. Unfortunately, Taft would die on March 8, 1930, due to heart complications.